Have you ever loved someone so deeply that you would give away the only thing you had just to see them smile? Have you ever felt that love wasn't measured by wealth, by status, or by what you could offer in material things, but by the simple act of sacrifice? This is the story of a boy, a pair of shoes, and a love that was far greater than anyone could have imagined. It is not just a tale of romance, but a reflection of the human heart, of the way love drives us to do things that logic can never explain. The boy's name was Daniel. He grew up in a small town in Illinois, in a neighborhood where people knew one another by name. Daniel wasn't poor in spirit, but his family didn't have much money. His father worked at a repair shop fixing cars, and his mother worked long shifts at the diner down the street. They provided what they could, but Daniel often wore hand-me-downs from his older cousins. While other boys at school flaunted the newest sneakers, Daniel walked the hallways in shoes with fading soles and fraying laces. And yet he was never bitter. He had learned from his parents that life wasn't about having everything. It was about appreciating the little you did have. Daniel carried this lesson in his heart, quietly, without complaint. He didn't crave wealth. He didn't dream of being rich. What he wanted more than anything was to be seen, to be loved. There was one person who made Daniel's heart beat differently. Her name was Emily. She was in his class, always cheerful, always kind. Emily wasn't the kind of girl who only talked to the popular kids. She noticed everyone. She had this way of making people feel important, even with something as small as a smile. Daniel admired her from afar, not because she was beautiful, though she was, but because she carried kindness like a light in her hands. But kindness, Daniel knew, could sometimes feel out of reach. He often thought about how different their worlds were. Emily came from a well-off family. She always had new clothes, a new bag, the latest shoes. Daniel never envied her. He simply felt small standing beside her, like the gap between them was too wide to cross. Still, his heart refused to let go. He believed that love, if it was real, wasn't about what you had. One winter, the school was holding a charity dance. It was simple, just in the school gym, but for teenagers in that small town, it felt like the biggest event of the year. Daniel wanted to ask Emily to go with him. He wanted, for once, to be brave. He practiced the words in his room at night, whispering them into the air. But each time, he thought of the worn-out shoes on his feet. He thought of how Emily's friends might laugh if she showed up with him. Then came a day when everything changed. Daniel had saved a small amount of money from doing odd jobs, mowing lawns, delivering newspapers. It wasn't much, but he thought about using it to buy himself a new shirt for the dance. Maybe, just maybe, it would give him confidence. But that week, Emily's birthday was coming up. And in town, there was a little shop that sold silver bracelets, simple but elegant. Daniel had seen Emily look at them once when they passed by after school. She had admired them, but walked away, probably because she already had plenty. Still, in Daniel's heart, he felt something stir. He wanted to give her that bracelet. He wanted to show her that he noticed the little things she liked. He wanted her to know she was special to him. But there was only one problem. The money he had saved wasn't enough, not even close. And that night, Daniel sat on the edge of his bed, staring down at his shoes. They were the only decent pair he owned, a gift from his father after months of saving. His father had said, "These should last you a long time, son." They were not brand new anymore, but they were sturdy, the best thing Daniel owned. And then the thought hit him, if he sold the shoes, he could buy the bracelet. The idea felt absurd at first. Who sells the only pair of good shoes they have? But the more Daniel thought about it, the clearer it became. Love, he reasoned, wasn't about holding on to things, it was about giving them away. And so, with a pounding heart, Daniel made his decision. He walked into town the next day and found a second-hand store that bought used items. The owner looked at the shoes, inspected them, and gave Daniel just enough cash to cover the bracelet. As Daniel walked out of the store, his feet now only covered by thin socks inside his oldest worn sneakers. He felt both lighter and heavier at the same time. Lighter because he knew he was about to do something meaningful. Heavier because he knew he had given up something important. With trembling hands, Daniel went to the little shop, bought the bracelet, and had it wrapped in a small box. He could barely contain his excitement. On the day of Emily's birthday, he found her by her locker. Nervously, he handed her the box. Emily's eyes lit up as she opened it. She gasped softly, "Daniel, this is beautiful." She slipped the bracelet onto her wrist, and her smile could have lit up the darkest night. "Thank you," she whispered, hugging him. For that moment, Daniel felt like the happiest boy alive. But happiness can be complicated. That evening, Emily wore the bracelet at her birthday party, surrounded by friends who noticed and admired it. They asked her where she got it, and when she said Daniel had given it to her, some of them laughed. They teased him, saying things about how Daniel couldn't possibly afford something nice, how he probably stole it. The words stung, but Emily defended him. "No," she said firmly, "he gave it to me because he cares. That's what matters." Her words were like a shield. For Daniel, it was worth everything. Yet when the dance came, he stood outside the gym, hesitant to go in. His old sneakers looked out of place among the polished shoes of the other boys. He watched through the window as Emily danced, the silver bracelet glinting under the lights. She searched for him in the crowd, but Daniel never stepped inside. Instead, he walked home under the winter sky, his feet cold, his heart both broken and full. Time passed. High school ended. People went their separate ways. Emily and Daniel drifted apart, as often happens when life pulls people in different directions. She went to college in another city, and Daniel stayed behind, working to help his family. But he never forgot that night. He never forgot the look on her face when she opened the box. He never forgot how it felt to give away something of value, simply for love. Years later, long after the world had changed around him, Daniel found himself walking through town again. The second-hand shop was still there. He stopped in, almost on a whim. And there, on a dusty shelf, he saw them, his old shoes. The same pair he had sold all those years ago. The price tag was faded, but his heart recognized them instantly. Daniel stood there for a long time, staring. It felt as if the shoes were whispering back the story of his youth, the love he had once carried, the sacrifice he had made. He didn't buy them. He didn't need to. Just seeing them reminded him that what he had done wasn't foolish. It was beautiful. Because love isn't measured by what you keep. It's measured by what you're willing to give. And perhaps that is the lesson of Daniel's story. That sometimes we hold too tightly to things, our possessions, our pride, our comfort, thinking they define us. But the truth is, what defines us are the sacrifices we're willing to make for others. The shoes Daniel sold were just shoes, but the love behind that act, that was eternal. So if you're listening to this, ask yourself, what are you holding on to that could mean so much more if you let it go? What small sacrifice could you make that might light up someone else's world? Sometimes, love is not about grand gestures. Sometimes, it is as simple as giving away the only pair of shoes you own, because in doing so, you give away a piece of your heart. Remember this, true love, true kindness, true humanity is not about keeping, but about giving. And every time you give, no matter how small it seems, you leave behind a story worth telling, a memory worth keeping, and a light worth following.